One day in a house in the middle of the desert lived a family with a son. They were preparing for lunch. When their son, Nat, was praying before they eat, suddenly, someone knocked on the front door. When opened, the father was shocked to see the most ruthless cowboy leader in front of him. He was Rufus, the most feared cowboy in Texas. He casually entered the dining room and sat on one of the chairs. He then grabbed his guns and pointed them at Nat and the mother. Suddenly, one of Rufus's men with a scorpion tattoo in his hand came and grabbed Nat's shoulder from behind. Nat's father kept begging for forgiveness and to let them live, but without the slightest pity, Rufus shot Nat's parents in front of him. Nat couldn't help but cried in terror, witnessing both of his parents' death right in front of his eyes. Suddenly, Rufus took a knife from his coat and carved a cross on Nat's forehead. He then left the place, leaving the boy with his dead parents. Years passed. One day, one of Rufus's men who had a scorpion tattoo on his hand entered a church to pray when he saw a cowboy kneeling in front of the altar. The cowboy greeted him with a smile and said that he was grateful. God had answered his prayers and brought him the man he had been searching for so long. The cowboy then put away his hat, showing a cross on his forehead. He was the adult Nat, the boy the man with the tattoo raided with Rufus tens of years ago. Without any hesitation, Nat took his gun and shot the man to death. Somewhere else on a hill, Nat's gang member named Pickett was keeping his eyes on a horde of robbers. It turned out, Nat had made his own cowboy gang that would rob robbers. When the robbers approached closer, Pickett signaled and they ambushed the horde with gunshots. Most of the robbers were killed, leaving the last 3 men. Pickett's friend, Jim, came and helped the ambush, leaving the last man from the horde as their hostage. The last robber said that they were part of Rufus's gang and they were dealing with something out of their league. He threatened that Rufus would find them and kill them all for what they were doing. Hearing Rufus's name mentioned, Pickett immediately brought the hostage to their base. At night at the bar, Nat and his girlfriend, Mary, were enjoying their night when suddenly, Pickett came and told Nat about Rufus's man that they brought as a hostage. Nat immediately interrogated the hostage, asking for Rufus's whereabouts. The man smiled and replied that his leader was in a prison, but he would soon be freed and return to their base in Redwood City. After he got that information, Nat released the hostage. The next day, one of Rufus's gang members named Trudy was standing in the middle of the railroad. Not long after, a train was seen from afar, approaching her. When the train stopped, the machinist came out from the train and that was when Trudy shot him dead in the head and the other gang member ambushed the train. They entered the train and met a young sheriff inside. Cherokee, one of the members, faced the sheriff and threatened to kill all the passengers if the sheriff kept pointing his gun at the gang members. Knowing his position, the sheriff lowered his gun and let them pass the door behind him. When the gang members entered the door, they were greeted by other sheriffs watching over an iron box. When Cherokee opened the box, Rufus was inside. He was finally freed. Rufus then signaled his gang members to kill all the sheriffs there.
Everybody but him.
They then returned to their base in Redwood City, a city that Rufus built by using the money he stole. During his time in prison, Rufus gave the leadership to one of his trustworthy crew named Wiley. When Rufus went to the bank to check all his money, the bank staff said that they had no money. One of his robber gangs was ambushed by a mysterious cowboy and all the money was stolen. He was confused since before he was imprisoned, he saved $25,000 in the bank, but now, it was all gone. He knew that Wiley must have something under his sleeves. He then met Wiley and asked about his money. It turned out that Wiley had betrayed Rufus and used all his money, even selling the city to someone else. Rufus then beat him with his pistol. He let him live since he was once his most loyal subordinate. He ordered him to leave the city. That night in the bar, Nat was approached by a sheriff named Bass. Nat's friends watched them when suddenly, Nat splashed the sheriff's face and made him angry. He pointed his gun at Nat's face. He angrily said that Nat was accused of robbing a bank and he had to bring him for interrogation. The next morning, they stopped in the middle of the road, and Nat was freed. It turned out that the arrest was set up by Nat. Last night, Bass came to the bar to ask for Nat's help to kill Rufus. He asked him because he knew that Nat had revenge against Rufus. Bass was the sheriff that handled Nat's parents' murder case long ago. Nat didn't want to involve any of his friends and so he set up the arrest so that he could go alone. Suddenly, his fellow cowboys and Cuffy, one of the waitresses in the bar, showed up. His friends had been following the wagon since last night because they were worried about Nat. They had listened to the plan and said that they wanted to help Nat. They were better off dead fighting together than alive while watching their friend die. Seeing that determination, Nat accepted his friend's help. On the other hand, in the city of Redwood, Trudy announced to the residents that the city had been mortgaged by Wiley to the white people. And because Rufus had no money to redeem the city, from now on, all residents must collect $50,000 to help Rufus. One angry man approached from the back and said that he didn't want to pay for the city. Suddenly, Rufus took his gun and shot him dead on the spot in front of everyone. He didn't care. He said that no matter what, they had to collect the money in 3 days or he would kill all their family. Meanwhile, in the forest, Wiley met Nat's cowboy gang. They knew that Wiley is the mayor of Redwood City. They tried to dig for some information about Rufus from him. Wiley advised them not to enter the city empty-handed. Rufus needed a lot of money, and so he suggested that one of them disguised himself and pretended to buy a bar to divert Rufus's attention while the other sneaked into the city. Hearing the plan, Nat invited Wiley to work together. At night, according to the plan, Mary went to Redwood City to distract Rufus by negotiating to buy a bar there, but unfortunately, she unconsciously mentioned the news about Rufus's gang member that was robbed by someone. The news was not spread by him, and because of that, Mary drew suspicion. Rufus realized that Mary was one of the robbers who robbed his gang. He provoked Mary to confess her crime, but suddenly, Trudy hit her head with her gun. The next day, Nat was worried about Mary. She hadn't shown herself since the night of the plan. Nat and his fellow cowboys decided to go to the city. When they arrived, they were greeted by Trudy. She knew that Nat was the one behind the robbery. She then threatened them to return the money they stole, an extra $10,000, or else she would kill Mary. The next morning in the forest, Nat and his friends planned the only possible way to gather that much money, which was to rob a bank. Nat gave Cuffy a dress for her disguise for the mission. They then went to the bank and threatened the staff, ordering them to give all the money there. Instead of doing what Cuffy asked, the staff laughed at her and thought that it was just a joke. Annoyed, Cuffy then took her gun and pointed it at the staff. Suddenly a sheriff showed up and pointed a gun at Nat. Luckily, Nat managed to take over the control and made the sheriff put down his gun. They managed to get all the money, but when they were about to leave the place, the alarm turned on. Cowboys started showing up and fired their guns at Nat and Cuffy. Luckily, Pickett came and helped them escape. In the forest, after counting all the money, they were surprised by Wiley. He came with a lot of ammunition. Wiley said that he had secretly stolen it from Rufus's armory. They prepared for their mission to catch Rufus. After that, they went to the city of Redwood. At first, Base came all alone with an empty wagon pretending to take the money. On the other hand, Rufus monitored Base from one of the buildings. Soon, Cherokee showed up to welcome him. When the other cowboys approached the wagon, Cherokee and Base walked away from the wagon. Suddenly, the wagon was blown up. Some of the cowboys were dead from the explosion. Base then said that that was a threat to Rufus to keep his promise to release Mary. Suddenly, Nat showed up from afar. Nat locked eyes with Rufus. Cuffy then came with the wagon full of cash while Pickett sneaked to the rooftop to watch over the trade. Worried that his money would be blown up, Rufus decided to release Mary. When Nat tried to approach Mary, Cherokee pointed his gun at him from behind, when suddenly, Jim came and pointed his gun at Cherokee. Seeing that, Cherokee challenged Jim to a duel. Unfortunately, Cherokee cheated and killed Jim. Seeing one of his friends dead, Pickett immediately shot the bomb on the cash wagon and blew away all the money. Thousands of dollars caught fire and a gunfight between the two cowboy gangs broke out. In the middle of the gunfight, Mary chased Trudy, who ran away into a building. When they met inside, Trudy challenged Mary to a duel. The fight was intense.
Let's go.
Both of them landed their attack on each other, but finally, Mary landed his final attack, and Trudy was defeated. At the other place, Base and Nat were still trying to fight over Rufus's gang member when suddenly, someone shot Nat's shoulder. Luckily, Base came and saved Nat when he was about to be shot. Base dragged Nat to a safe place. In the middle of the gunfight, Nat suddenly remembered his past, when his parents were shot dead by Rufus in front of his face. His anger exploded. He came out of his hideout and managed to kill all of Rufus's men alone. Meanwhile, Wiley managed to infiltrate the base and meet Rufus. Rufus said that he regretted not killing Wiley in the first place. Rufus suddenly shot a bomb inside Wiley's pocket, causing an explosion that killed Wiley. At the same time, Cuffy and Pickett entered the bar when suddenly, Cherokee appeared and shot Pickett dead. Cuffy was angry by Cherokee's cunning. She told him to fight her like a real cowboy. Cuffy managed to kill him, leaving Rufus alone. Nat came all alone to meet Rufus to pay for his revenge. Inside the building, Nat met Rufus. While holding his anger, Nat asked Rufus if he remembered the face of the kid from 20 years ago. The kid they left with his dead parents they killed in front of him. Shockingly, Rufus replied that he was jealous of Nat. His father loved him, unlike his evil father. Long ago, Rufus had a father that never loved him. His father always beat him up. One day, when his father came and was about to beat him up, his mother came trying to protect little Rufus. Without the slightest pity, Rufus's father shot his mother dead in front of him and left Rufus alone with his mother's corpse. That incident was the born of Rufus, the most feared cowboy, full of vengeance for his father. He had been searching for years for his father's whereabouts until one day, one of his men told him that his father had lived in a small house in the middle of the desert with his new family. That was Nat's house. Nat's father was Rufus's father too. Rufus decided not to kill Nat because he knew that Nat was his brother. Rufus said that if he had to die, he wanted to die in the hands of his family. Nat couldn't believe Rufus's story. He kept saying that it was all a lie. Rufus screamed, saying that if Nat really hated Rufus, he had to kill his own brother right now. Rufus was shot dead by his own brother. The next day, when everything was settled, Nat, Mary, Cuffy, and Base were seen looking at the graves of their friends who died in the gunfight, leaving the gang with just Nat and Mary. They both then split up. Cuffy returned to her bar, Base back to the city as the sheriff, and Nat, along with Mary, ventured together.